welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining me today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Group Captain Peter Wood. We warmly welcome the family of Private Harold David Creswick, whose story will be told shortly. We are honoured to acknowledge His Excellency Mr. Pedro Zvalen, Ambassador of Switzerland to Australia. Her Excellency Mrs. Yasmin Shatila Zvalen, Ambassador to Kiribati, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Special Envoy of Switzerland for the Pacific region, and the accompanying delegation of parliamentarians from Switzerland. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors, and students on behalf of the following schools. From South Australia, St Ignatius College Middle School, Athelston. From New South Wales, Toongabbie Christian College and Conago Public School. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Boys and girls, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of the men and women, more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Harold David Creswick. Harold Creswick was born in 1875, one of three sons of Richard and Margaret Creswick of Wimmera in Western Victoria. Harold's parents separated and remarried when he was young, and for most of his formative years he lived in Melbourne, where he attended Toorak College and spent 4 years in the school's cadet corps. He married Alice Welsh at Beechworth in 1900. The couple and their daughter Thelma lived in North Sydney, where Harold sold life insurance. The strict recruiting standards for the Australian Imperial Force had prevented Harold from enlisting early in the war, but by 1917 these had been relaxed in order to fill reinforcement quotas. At the age of 42, Creswick enlisted at Bondi Junction in February 1917. After 3 months training at the Sydney Showground, he embarked for England with a reinforcement group for the 3rd Battalion. Creswick was left stranded in Western Australia when he failed to return to the troopship before it departed Fremantle for Plymouth. He was docked pay for this minor misdemeanour and sailed for England several weeks later. Creswick spent the following months training on the Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire before sailing for France in March 1918. He joined the 3rd Battalion whilst it rested at Ridgewood Camp near Ypres in Belgium, and several days later the Germans launched their spring offensive. Australian units in the north were rushed south to help stem the German advance on Amiens and secure the surrounding area. The 3rd Battalion was sent to Strazelia in French Flanders in an effort to defend the area against a further German assault. The rifle companies immediately took up defensive positions at the train station, where Creswick was manning a Lewis gun in a forward outpost. German artillery fell on the position later that evening, killing Creswick and killing or wounding almost every man of his platoon. Aged 43 at the time of his death, Harold Creswick was buried nearby, and after the war was reinterred at Uttersteiner Communal Cemetery in Bayeux, where he rests today. A small epitaph on his headstone reminds us of the grief endured by his wife and daughter, the dear husband and father of A&T Creswick of Sydney. Harold Creswick is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Harold David Creswick, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.